So what will it be the first 5th generation in the game? We have a lot of options to be added, but what can we expect to have as options in a general sense when 5th generations start to be added to the game? I think we have 4 options in a general sense of particular aircraft added in 2 ways that can be added as GENS seems thinks will fit, in my opinion, right? So the 4 aircraft would be obviously the F-22, the F-35, the Su-57, and the J-20. Of course, there are plenty of other aircraft that are in development, but these are the ones that I think are the most reliable for everybody to get a 5th generation jet as soon as possible if GENS wants, right? So let's talk a little bit about each of these, and then we're going to talk about the 2 options in ways that they can add these aircraft. So we start up with the F-22, of course the Raptor. I don't even need to talk too much about it, but yeah, the aircraft is stealth focused, right? It has a thrust vectoring engine, you know, in up or down, right? It doesn't go sideways, but still, it is one of the most maneuverable aircraft in the world. It has a radar, internal bay to carry missiles. Of course, the missiles would be advanced versions of the missiles that we have in the game, so AIM-9Xs, AIM-120s, stuff like that. It would be one of the most modern aircraft in the game, but of course, remember, this is the first 5th generation jet to ever enter in proper service, so it would be having some older systems compared to the F-35, for example. So yeah, great aircraft. You don't need to even, I mean, I don't even need to keep talking too much about, everybody knows what an F-22 is, right? The F-35, of course, the next generation of 5th generation jets of the Americans, right? The idea here, although the F-22 you know, the F-22 was made more to be a very specific aircraft. They were planning to build more of them, but it was too expensive, not really something that they needed, so they have a smaller numbers, right? The F-35 would have a completely different take on that. It would be the most produced aircraft to substitute the majority of the 4th generation jets in service throughout the world, right? So although it is a quite expensive aircraft, especially the development of it, it is still an aircraft that the objective was to be made in very large numbers, right? It is still stealth capable, like focused, right? I mean, better ISA radars, better missiles, better everything, air-to-ground capability. So it's a more complete aircraft to be used in a multi-role kind of situation. Some say it is less maneuverable than an F-22, but I don't think it's gonna be too much of a problem with the missiles and stuff that these aircraft have. So yeah, it would be kind of like that, right? Remember, we have 3 versions of the F-35. The A, which has an internal gun, and it has the better performance, the normal Air Force One. The B, which is the VTOL one, vertical takeoff and landing, right? This version doesn't have an internal gun, but it can carry a pod, and it is an aircraft that you can land vertically, right? And then the C model, which is the Navy one, which has different wings, different gears, an arrestor gear to be able to land on, normal carriers. So it's the Navy one, right? And basically this is it. I don't need to talk too much about the F-35 as well. Everybody knows what it is, but it is more, if the F-22 would be more of a very specific weapon, like an F-15, for example, initially, like an F-15A or C, the F-35 would be more of an F-16, right? A jack of all trades that can be bought by many nations, and in theory at least it is cheaper, right? And then that's it. For the US, we have 2 options for now. Then we go for the Russians and Chinese. The Russians, of course, have the Su-57, less stealth focused than the other ones that we talked about, but apart from that, it is every bit as good in the terms of maneuverability. Thrust vectoring is basically for all places 3D, right? It has an ISA radar, internal missile bay as well. We can carry more missiles outside as well if the stealth is not a problem. We can carry very advanced missiles like more advanced R-77s and some missiles like the R-74M, which is a an upgrade over the R-73, right? And even R-37s, for example, which is the long-range missile that is being introduced. It's already in service, right, with the Russians. So this aircraft would be one of the most maneuverable ones out of them all, probably the most maneuverable, I would imagine. I mean, it's difficult to know, because, you know, propaganda, classified stuff, you know how it is, but it would be one of the most maneuverable ones, but less stealthy, right? So it's an aircraft that will probably be added together with any type of fifth generation jet for the Americans to try to keep balance with something for the Russians, right? And then the J-20, which is a completely different design. It is the first fifth generation jet for the Chinese. Of course, the Chinese are building more fifth generation jets that I think would be even more suitable for the game, but I still believe that J-20 will be the first one to be added. Why is the J-20 so different? Well, guys, here is the thing. The doctrine behind the J-20 is completely different from the other ones. Although these aircraft should be able to, of course, maneuver very well and be very nimble, the idea here is more of an interceptor-ish. You know, it's an aircraft that doesn't have a gun, for example, and it would only rely on missiles. So it can be a problem being added to the game, but I still believe that they will add the J-20 being the first fifth generation jet for the Chinese, okay? It would have the most modern missiles and weapons that the Chinese have. Missiles like the PL-15 and PL-10, you know, missiles that are, you know, a whole bunch of new technologies from the original missiles that we currently have. So, although it doesn't have a gun and the maneuverability should be less than the Su-57 and F-22 on the very least, I think the J-20 still is going to be one of the most interesting ones to be added, because it's an aircraft that not a lot of people talk about, and it is an aircraft that it's interesting enough that I think just needs to be added, right? And then, guys, what are the two options? You know, we talked about the 4 aircraft that I think we will see it coming first, whenever it's coming. It might take a long time. It will probably take a long time. I would think on the very least next year, but still. We have two options. I think, at one hand, if they want to add specifically the first production service fifth generation jet, it would be kind of complicated to add the F-35 together. So if they add, I think they have two options. One of them would be to add the F-22, the Su-57, and the J-20 in the same patch. What is the positive of that? Of course, the first production model of a fifth generation jet in service, the F-22, coming first, which makes a lot of sense. The problem with it, yeah, not a lot of balancing, right? Because the only 3 nations that would receive it would be the Americans, the Russians, and the Chinese. The second option would be to add the F-35 first, and then the Su-57 and J-20. These would create two things as well. The bad part is that we would not have an F-22 at first, but the good part is that almost everybody, I think, would have a fifth generation jet. So the US would have an F-35, the Germans can have an F-35, the Russians can have the Su-57, the British can have the F-35, the Japanese can have the F-35, the Chinese with the J-20, the Italians with the F-35, the French with Dutch or Belgian F-35, the Swedish with a Finnish F-35, and then the Israelis with the F-35I, right? So everybody would have either an F-35 or the Russians with the Su-57 and the Chinese with the J-20. So it's a lot more balanced, but at the same time, I still believe that a lot of American mains would rather have the F-22 first than a balancing option with the F-35 for everybody apart from the Russians and Chinese, right? So it's kind of interesting to see this. And I still believe these would be the two options that we have. They can also add the F-22 in one patch, and in the next one add the F-35 for the other ones, or even add the F-22 for the Americans and then the F-35 for everybody else. But Gaijin will not do that, because they already said that if something is coming for a nation that it's American, it will come for the Americans first. At least it's what they said, okay? If that's the true or not in the game, I don't know. It doesn't feel like sometimes, but they say that. Yeah, they actually say that. So, yeah, Let me know in the comments what you think, guys. Which would be the best option? Having an F-35 for everybody and then Su-57 and J-20, or the F-22 with the Su-57 and J-20? Let me know in the comments, and I see you guys on the next one. Yeah, we are very far from the 5th generation jets, but I think it's fun if we wonder a little bit, because one time I was doing videos like this wondering when the Eurofighter would come, and here we are. So it will pass like that, and we will get the 5th generation jets, I guarantee to you. So I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and bye. See you.